My name's Robin Barber, and I helped to publish this book with Carol Edelstein, and we could not be happier than to be here today with all of you. We are all here today to celebrate Jonathan Wright. We know him. Each of us, in our own ways, have been graced by his kindness, his alert generosity, his capability, and his extraordinary energy. Jonathan is a man who has organized his life to give steadily to his family, his co-workers, his friends, and fellow rowers, and to his town. In the kitchen, he is a poet with food. Each of us could tell a story about how knowing Jonathan has improved our lives. We wonder at times if there are extra hours in his days. Within Jonathan, there is an engine that powers all these good things that he does. And that engine is visible on the pages of After the Rain. We hear the man that we know. We experience the world through his eyes and through his heart. His kindness is there, his capable generosity, his loving fun, and his deep reverence. Listen as his poems express the sources of Jonathan's extraordinary positive energy. We learn how his strength is generated by the people dear to him, by the quiet observation of land and water, with weather and the seasons, by his bravery to go out into the world and let the world in. The work that Jonathan has accomplished on the pages of After the Rain gives us the center of the man. And right now, we will all have the privilege of hearing Jonathan's poetry in his own voice. Please welcome Jonathan Wright.
Who is he talking about? Yesterday, a friend said, "Oh, I'm going to come to the party tomorrow afternoon. Will there be a reading?" So I just want to let you know I am going to read, and we will have something to eat and drink in a little while. I want to thank you also for coming indoors on this gorgeous day and being here with us. Thanks to my many friends here at Hampshire, President and Mrs. Lash, for coming out today to join us. I'm thrilled that you're here. To Meg, in whose goodness and love all is possible. To my family, present and away, for your love and support, sometimes against the odds. The Wednesday night writers, current, past, and future, many of you are here. In your crucible, in the long interval between our pasta suppers and evening snack, anything can come to be. This book has your fingerprints all over it. The gallery of readers, especially Robin and Carol, who have cared for and honed this book with me and for me for more than a year, and with all the love and skill one could ever dream of. To Stephanie Gibbs, who's here, who designed the book and created the book, and Norma Sims Roach, who edited it with a fine writer's eye. To Paige Allen, a dearest of friends and Hampshire classmate, who opened her life's work of painting and drawings for the selection of the cover art offshore. To Robert Jonas, who will join me in several of the readings on the Shakuhachi, and of course to each and all of you. I'm going to begin with a poem called Getting Started. Seems easy enough. The castle dreamt itself to rubble. Its stones and quicklime slowly washed into the creek and bight. The sword lies wrapped in oiled cloth. A pen, mighty and still, is in its jar, next to where the door once was, looking out over an ink blue sea. The sand is white and hot like paper, and the paper smooth as skin. The skin, with its flesh akin to rubber and wind and smoke, is where I end and you begin, and where the day made of all these things, abraded, washed, polished, awakes. Mount Hope Bay, which is a piece of Narragansett Bay. Little meditation. Mount Hope Bay. The water is clear on the incoming tide, rippled like auburn silk. 3 geese, 2 ducks, and a single plover pass as the last sunlight bursts on weathered pilings, on heather, on late climbing roses and bittersweet, on honeysuckle and heron beaks, on rosa rugosa stems and thorn fir, and sprays a last blazing wild, love-struck, water-prismed glow. A couple of times a year we go up to West Hawley to this place called Stump Sprouts and hole up there with Don and whoever else will join us for a couple of 3 days. And it's a wonderful place to write. And this has its origins on West Hill. Woodpecker, wind, raven. Cloud-bent light spills down the meadow, fills in below the willows and the linden stand. Morning calm clipped into heartbeat bits by more than one woodpecker breakfasting. The wind is not the wind, but this water's creak and tumble calling back, conifer night sound, mistaken now for breathing. As for the raven, I brought it here myself, in a softened hand of centuries, in the way of the Inuit, the Hopi, or the Tlingit, a clannish sense of being, for a moment, always and everywhere at once. In the course of this afternoon, I'll read a couple of poems for you that refer to the Louisa River in Puerto Rico, where I've had a chance to spend some time in a rowing shell. This is called Estuary. At the bend by the highway bridge, slow water and bamboo give way to the open river. A stucco chapel on one side, shuttered, rust-streaked. On the other, a long-abandoned sugar mill. High banks with mud swallows' nests give way to open grassland, tamarinds, blue heron, white ibis, kingfisher and osprey with their creaky, swinging screen door cries. Flood trash shopping bags hang from upper limbs, above eddies of mountain grass shreds, flip-flops, and weathered hat brims. A shearwater skims deep inshore, where the fickle breeze gives way to steady wind. Tawny water gives way to gray, to green, to sudden salted blue. Coconuts, oranges, one perished pig drifts slowly by. Here the floodwaters spread out toward an old racehorse grazing by a fish shanty, roof caved in, long ago given way to mangrove thicket in brooding black water. Plovers, swallows, doves, and hummingbirds give way to pelicans and a frigate bird with its delta wing, coasting high, still, into the wind. Surf calls, pounds its white cloud ribbon lip and churns the horizon, flips it up, lathers it with trade wind and spindrift, then swallows it whole where the sky tumbles in, gives way to the sea. Robert Jonas, a longtime friend, is going to join me, or we're going to join together in some of the pieces here. This is short story, and Jonas is playing the shakuhachi. Short story. Lifted by sorrow, felled by purpose, soothed by longing, loved by air, shaped by stone, rusted by stars, seeded by wind, washed by dirt, burned by blindness, scalded by work, weighed by dark, pounded by needles, ended by dawn. That sound just reaches into the places where we live. I spent the time from the time I was 6 months to a year and a half in Japan, and I just feel I can reach back into early life when you play. Thank you. Old grief. Don't work so hard to keep the grief alive. It knows how to live quite well in my body on its own. Sweeping birthday surprises and nice night sadness sweats into soiled mesh bags of longing. Unfold them, handle them, your paint-spattered, putty-crusted dirt brocades. Hang them on a line of cares between two apple trees and think of them as saffron Tibetan prayers. Quiet mind, the tatters and the tears. Strip the grieving body skin, release the lather, the cries and laughter, the muscle burn of lump-commanded heat burst out within. Nothing, something, everything. It's a modest title. At least the nothing part. So it's in 3 parts. Nothing is so still as when night shrugs up a day and the wind's all down. The wren stops by the barn ridge to catch a darting glimpse of where the dawn went atop West Hill. Something in the last few flakes of snow seems more about a lesson still unlearned and right at hand, not yet known, than the winter's wooden fingers unclasping now and letting go. Everything gives up its linger, gone away, lungs hollowed out by air, bound by bendy thought and bones so spare. The mind is all drained away of solids and the pigments too. Even stories are settled down to still. The heart is given in to other magic things, driven out of dawn, first and brilliant light breaking there. Origin. I love these simple titles. Origin. Something. Do you know where you came from? Who first, the very, very first, called your name? As for me, I came upon an answer on tiptoe, in soft, wet grass, in the way that night falls slowly in midsummer. An earthworm, ruddy, wet, spaded in two, wriggled out from under the apple tree roots on the day the blossoms flew away. I've got a few love-ish poems. This is called In the Shade. Breaking waves sound like something beaten, hammered, doused, and forged. Industry, percussion, touch. Listen, cry out, hiss, forgive, they say in English. Kiss, drift, die out, breathe again in local dialect. All day, the Northeast trades fill in. In a single glance, I see a gleam on her brown shoulder, just below the red halter strap, where his tongue has coursed, her hair pulled back, falling like rain onto his neck. She sits on his left thigh, back pressed into his chest, legs braided together like shipping hawsers, and eyes gleaming like the ocean would, if it were chocolate, melting slowly onto sea grape leaves. Your new love. I have long befriended from a gentle distance the silky black busy bird inhabiting your face, the glistening Aegean coast starlit night of your body, where today a soft mammal with eyes like Kalamata olives, skin of fresh-caught white bream, has taken up residence, cuddled into your freshened cheeks, beached its weathered dory, and stowed its weary paddle, licking the high noon tide pools of your new love smile. Though not for me this smile, who could not, touched on the neck or the wrist or chin, turn toward the hot, damp south wind of it? This is called Louisa Beach. Louisa is on the north coast of Puerto Rico, between San Juan and Fajardo, a place you know. Walking west towards the river inlet, at first I saw rubbish and sticks and something like tissues in the sand. Party remnants, maybe, washed in or washed out. Up close I saw dozens of oranges and apples polished by water and sand, not a bite or blemish anywhere. And the paper things, why, they are scores of freshly wilted roses, white as noon. No other signs of funeral or wedding traffic, baptismal rites, footprints or tire tracks, just the petals and stems slowly parting. Returning back this way an hour later and the tide falling, the beach is empty, clean now except for 2 apples, 1 orange, and suddenly a watermelon rolling in the wash, its weeks dead flesh still fresh, perhaps lightly salted for my half-southern tongue. Just here yesterday, a drained and drowned livid green iguana lay, nothing gone from him but his life. After one misjudged breaker, he's left his party dress, a slackened, striped, and silky rind. The roses made their point, came and went at the white edge of the sea, toasted and curled by sand. And the tender, gleaming fruits, what sort of longing is it with which I miss them now? calendula, which many of you may know as a healing salve for babies and adults. It's a remarkable plant, identified by me by a naturalist that I know when I described it while rowing in the mid-spring. It's quite powerful. Okay, calendula. Spring flood abated and silted wood's floor sprung with fiddleheads, ripples of light, and yellow-blossomed calendula, an almanac of undulated days between planting moons. Calendula, the salve for babies in their first spring, the restless bark and bakery of cinnamon and turbinado. Calendula, early flower, flourishing like Cold Creek salmon fry before the maple's leaf. Calendula, flickering candle with endless cotton wicks. Calendula, the pendulum of Scotland, swings in Caledonia. Calendula, between breaths, you rest on the tip of the edge of the river of my tongue, then are swallowed, thirsty, dark, dredged with petals and duff, into summer. Before you leave, one of you will have bought the copy of this book that has my notes on what Jonas and I are doing.
We'll have to check in with each other.
That's right. So it's like, so it really is improvisation when you don't have your notes. Okay, that's good. This is called Last Skull. The river is so low. In the wide, straight stretch, a white egret strolls, bank to bank, over gravel shoals, like northern sea flats at ebb tide. What's left for us is more sky than water. We follow hidden channels where the bottom comes up slow and rubble stoned to meet us. Streams cut sand the way wind carves clouds, and we row one last time in a wet, sweet unknown between. Questions? What will become of me, my soft, raindropped love for you, hanging low like fresh laundry, a setting day-rinsed sun in its indigo night collar in that linden tree? How long have I been watching your night-cool bare arm on the pillow by my head, waiting for first light or your slight movement to excuse a slow brush along the soft kitten of your skin sleeping there? You know those wonderful disclaimers that the characters, here represented, bear no relation to anyone you ever met or knew or could have possibly known. So in this, there appears someone with an earring, and of course, I couldn't imagine who that might be. Dusk comes to the old pirate. Surf pounds on the bar like a train that never arrives. A surge and ebb in the valleys of the sea. The air is as sweet as a peach and salty as nuts. He thinks of his cigar and holds a tube of bamboo. Touching his right shoulder where his gray parrot, distant thunder, once sat, he finds a ragged shirt sleeve smelling of nutmeg, lime, and gunpowder. In his other hand, rusty keys have replaced the dagger. His gold earring remains. Turning, he steps towards the wash, thinking it is time to launch the captain's gig. Finding none, he gazes at the dusk horizon for clues of foundered ships. Tonight, and every night now, there is only the final dancing blaze of the bright red magic lantern under full and glowing canvas going down in the western sea. Waiting. Shallow and rapid now, where the water is thin and the bottom grass sways downstream. Her breathing, short, quick, tumbles over the stones. In hours now, she'll run dry like a summer creek, done with the ice chips and swabs and the wide shallows of bedside, and slip away, eyes closed, feet cool, fresh current driven on a fair tide to the other side. If you ask Jonas nicely later, he will show you the notation for the shakuhachi, which is a series of oval things.
Random ideograms.
It's just remarkable. This is a 5-poem suite called Hexagram. And we will begin the first one. No vacancy. What could this mean in neon above the sign for 9 Pines Motel? 2 cars parked out back, a dirt track vanishes into the woods. Yellow light bulbs burn outside each of 8 queen bedrooms. I smell pine sap, burnt toast, and something like late snow coming. What is left to be empty? Where do the 2 cars go when the no goes unlit? Vacancy. Emptiness is everywhere. Even physicists agree with medicine men and television evangelists that there is, in this vast space between atoms and particles, the total emptiness between Providence and Boston. A little electricity of attraction or abhorrence, the desire not to touch or touch. Not just nothing as long supposed, but openness through which light passes unopposed. Open window. Water pools on the sill. A breeze drifts over me, a tuft of fresh cotton. Cool, steady rain rises at night to a torrent, then abates to a drizzle, invisible in the dark. Wrapped in textile undergrowth, my bed covers are lichen, sticks, and moss. We mammals tiptoe in and out of dreams in the glassy shine of morning, still hours away. Fabric. The prop jet cruises just above the cloud rung of its water, light as a pillow. Nothing known beyond police notes, wet roads, head-on crash, and all that's left now broken in a wooden box. How this happened is an answer begging the question. Soggy handkerchief still in my pocket. Box. What's left of the body is still too heavy even after the smoke dies. Ash and bone chips weigh more than we can bear down to the edge of the lake. Lake Superior. Clear as sky, almost vacant. Deep bending light folds around the bottom stones. A sudden ripple, shaking like your puppy, nibbles on the dark, soft rim of the shore. You are here with us where the bottom drops slowly away. Superior is a place apart, more ocean than lake, more ancient than known, and cold enough any day to burn right through. There is no place like this without you. Hexagram with Jonas. Another world. You might be as surprised as I was that the edge of another world, 7 feet due west of my hospital bed, was filled with a warm summer breeze. The curtains billowed in the open windows. Hyacinths and chrysanthemums were all about the foyer, while the radiant afternoon collected at the foot of the bed, where you thought you stood in a white and windowless room. French doors opened onto a shaded porch with geranium pots and courting swings. Birds sang without stopping, and everywhere the murmur of family like falling water. I will sit on that porch one day, not just now, I think, or so the doctors said. I will smell the ripening pears, admire yellow, white, and crimson roses, the orange pyracantha berries, feel the steady breeze off an ocean I cannot see. I will hold your hand again, and you, whom I have held close with eyes closed, will tell me your real name. This is called Gust. Sweat lathered in pollen and small animal scent, it bursts in the open window, scattering papers, sweeping dog hair and dust, abandoned cornflakes, dry threads across the glistening bright red fender of morning. Trailing its white Buddhist gift shawl across the clatter of dress shoes, garden clogs, glass slippers, and leaf moccasins of ancient druids, it crosses to the other window, breathing softly now, hesitates, trembling against the insect screen before passing through. Born again. Before first light, a lone wolf howls 3 times in his thinly frosted beech and oak and bramble church. Downhill, 1 apple and 2 white stubble whiskered birch trees guard the last mowing. All the trees have cleaned themselves like cats, licking away the last leaves with smoke-sweetened wind tongues, leaving their love bones to dry, freeze, and be born again, as I am now, straightening some twisted turns of phrase into long, wet, supple apple limbs worth climbing in. I have 2 more for you. This is Getting Late, and then I'll read you the title poem, After the Rain. You're being very good. Getting late. The afternoon is a lake where at last I can see myself in the shallows, where the cedar roots run clear. Maples are bare and near as I read about Buddha and the 12 steps. Their trunks turn tawny, copper, tarnished bronze with a touch of umber. Where secrets keep, cloud hint of thunder, awaken. Light fails faster, brightening. We come back to bamboo here again. Bamboo is just our companion today, isn't it? You know, there's no reed in that flute. You're just blowing over the edge. There's nothing there, just a hollow tube. After the rain. The tide went out after the rain, after dawn, taking the river with it, tangles of rope and fish line, shreds of children's clothes and rubber shoe soles, grounding, wrecking, beaching, bamboo root clumps the size of dump trucks into the ocean sand. Fresh, cunning, wild shoots sprayed out. Bearded coconut heads loll in the slackened wash, a massacre of vegetation, sleek with silt and promise, unarmed and fleeing, feeding the dogfish and the pearls. I would not miss what comes of this so quick, so soon after the rain. Our still wet skin glistens and reminds me, not long ago we were yet unborn, content, kicking in brine, and long, long before, and so small, came from water, slippery, still mostly liquid, sparkling like flint or rain, with tails and short legs, for the very first time into the sun. Thank you very much.
So you only have 2 more things to do today. Eat food, buy books. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.